The champagne glass slipped from my fingers, shattering against the marble floor of our family's dining room. But I barely noticed the crystal fragments or the golden liquid spreading across the expensive Persian rug. All I could focus on was my grandmother's emerald and diamond necklace glittering around my sister's throat like a cruel joke. I'd love to know which corner of the globe you're watching from. And if this story speaks to you, make sure to subscribe. Tomorrow's video is one you absolutely can't miss. Isn't it gorgeous? Jessica gushed, her manicured fingers trailing over the antique jewels. Grandmother Evelyn always said it would be mine someday, and here we are. She spun around, making the necklace catch the chandelier light in a way that made my stomach turn. I'm Linda, and I'd been waiting 26 years for this moment. Not the moment my sister got the necklace, the moment I got to watch her parade around in a fake worth less than her morning latte. 3 months earlier, I'd carefully removed the real Ashworth family necklace from our grandmother's jewelry box during one of my weekly visits. Grandmother Evelyn had been battling dementia for 2 years, and her once sharp mind had become cloudy and unpredictable. While Jessica lived 3 states away, building her Instagram influencer career in Los Angeles, I was the one changing bedpans, sorting medications, and holding Evelyn's hand through her confused episodes. "The necklace, Linda," she'd whispered to me one lucid afternoon, her papery fingers gripping mine with surprising strength. "It should go to the granddaughter who truly understands sacrifice, who puts family first." But I knew better than to trust those moments of clarity. Grandmother Evelyn's will, written 5 years ago when her mind was still intact, clearly stated the necklace would pass to her eldest granddaughter. That was Jessica, born a full 14 minutes before me on that snowy December morning in 1997. So I'd taken matters into my own hands. The replica I'd commissioned from a jeweler in downtown Chicago was flawless. Marcus Goldstein, a third-generation craftsman, had studied every facet of the original for weeks. The weight, the color, even the tiny imperfection in the center emerald where Grandmother Evelyn had chipped it during her rebellious teenage years, everything was perfect. Marcus had charged me $8,000, nearly my entire savings account. But watching Jessica flaunt what she thought was a priceless heirloom made every penny worth it. "Earth to Linda," my mother's voice cut through my satisfaction. Margaret Ashworth stood in the doorway, her perfectly styled silver hair and navy Chanel suit making her look like she'd stepped out of a country club magazine. "Are you going to help clean up this mess, or just stand there gawking?" I grabbed the dish towel from the kitchen counter and knelt to collect the glass shards. From this angle, I had the perfect view of the necklace, and I even had to admire Marcus's craftsmanship. The fake emeralds caught the light beautifully, their green depths looking mysteriously authentic. "Sorry, Mom, I guess I was just surprised by how beautiful it looks on Jessica." "It does suit her, doesn't it?" Mother beamed, walking over to adjust the necklace's position. "Your grandmother always said Jessica had the perfect neck for it, long and elegant, just like Evelyn's own mother." The backhanded compliment wasn't lost on me. According to family lore, I'd inherited the sturdy Ashworth belt, broader shoulders, shorter neck, more practical than pretty. Jessica, meanwhile, had won the genetic lottery with delicate features, naturally blonde hair, and the kind of photogenic smile that had earned her 200,000 Instagram followers. "Has anyone heard from Cousin Bradley?" Jessica asked, checking her reflection in the dining room mirror. She angled her phone to capture the necklace in the best white. "I want to make sure he sees this before I post it. You know how he gets about family treasures." Bradley Ashworth, our grandfather's nephew, had been fighting for years to get his hands on various family heirlooms. As the last surviving male in the Ashworth line, he believed he had more right to the family treasures than mere granddaughters. He'd already contested Grandmother Evelyn's china set distribution and had made noises about challenging other aspects of her will. "Bradley can complain all he wants," Mother said dismissively. "The necklace goes to the eldest granddaughter, just as your great-great-grandmother intended when she first commissioned it in 1923. I watched Jessica pose for another selfie, completely unaware that she was documenting herself wearing a sophisticated fake.
The irony was delicious. She'd spent years telling anyone who'd listen about her future inheritance, how the Ashworth emerald necklace would be the centerpiece of her jewelry collection. She'd even had a special display case built in her Beverly Hills apartment, complete with museum-quality lighting and security features. I should probably get it appraised soon, Jessica mused, still admiring herself. You know, for insurance purposes. I heard these vintage pieces can be worth even more than we think. My heart skipped, but I kept my expression neutral. That's probably smart. When are you planning to do that? Oh, not for a while. I want to enjoy wearing it first. Maybe I'll take it to that appraiser in Beverly Hills that celebrities use. What's his name? Vincent something? Vincent Carrera. I knew the name because I'd researched him extensively while planning my switch. He was one of the most respected jewelry appraisers on the West Coast, known for his expertise with antique pieces. He'd spot the fake in about 30 seconds. Sounds expensive, I said casually. Everything worthwhile is expensive, Jessica replied with the kind of casual dismissal that only came from never having to check a bank balance. Her influencer career and trust fund had insulated her from financial concerns that keep normal people awake at night. Father emerged from his study, still wearing his reading glasses and carrying a thick legal document. Robert Ashworth had aged considerably since grandmother Evelyn's diagnosis, his once dark hair now completely silver, his shoulders permanently stooped from the weight of managing the family's affairs. "How's our girl looking?" he asked, though his smile seemed forced. The past year had been hard on him, watching his mother's slow decline while managing her increasingly complex care needs. "Like a real Ashworth woman," Mother declared, strengthening Jessica's posture with practiced hands. "This necklace has been worn by 4 generations of strong women in our family. Your great-great-grandmother Margaret wore it to meet President Coolidge. Your grandmother Charlotte wore it to her first society ball. Your grandmother wore it on her wedding day." The family history lesson was one I'd heard countless times, but tonight it hit differently. Those women had worn the real necklace, felt the weight of genuine emeralds and authentic diamonds. Jessica was wearing a lie, and she had no idea. "I can't wait to wear it to the Morrison Foundation Gala next month," Jessica continued, oblivious to my internal satisfaction. "Everyone will be so impressed. Sarah Morrison has been bragging about her grandmother's ruby brooch for months." The Morrison Foundation Gala was one of Los Angeles's most exclusive charity events, attended by celebrities, societies, and old money families like ours. It would be the perfect venue for Jessica to show off what she believed was her priceless heirloom to hundreds of wealthy, influential people. My phone buzzed with a text message. Marcus Goldstein, checking in as he'd been doing weekly since the switch. "Hope everything is going smoothly with the project. Remember, if anyone asks detailed questions about the piece, there might be microscopic differences under professional examination."
I deleted the message immediately and slipped the phone back into my pocket. Jessica was too busy posing for more photos to notice my brief distraction, but I caught Father watching me with an odd expression. "Everything all right, sweetheart?" he asked. "Just work stuff," I lied smoothly. "You know how demanding the hospital can be." It wasn't entirely untrue. My job as a surgical nurse at Northwestern Memorial kept me busy enough to provide the perfect cover story for any unexplained absences or mysterious expenses. Who would question a healthcare worker's irregular schedule or modest savings being depleted by medical conferences and continuing education? "Speaking of work," Mother interjected, "I hope you'll be able to get time off for the memorial service next weekend. Your grandmother would have wanted both her granddaughters there." The memorial service. Another opportunity for Jessica to display the fake necklace to family members who'd known and loved the original. Great-Aunt Dorothy, who'd helped Grandmother Evelyn clean and maintain the piece for decades. Uncle Charles, who'd studied antique jewelry as a hobby. Cousin Melissa, who worked at Sotheby's auction house and had an expert eye for authentic period pieces. The more people who saw Jessica wearing the necklace, the bigger the risk of discovery. But that was also part of the thrill. Every family gathering, every social event, every photo posted to social media would be another chance for the truth to surface. And when it did, Jessica would have to face the reality that she'd been proudly wearing a fake while I safely possessed the real family treasure.
I'll be there, I promised, already imagining the looks on everyone's faces when the truth eventually came out. The evening wound down with more family stories and additional photos of Jessica modeling the necklace from every possible angle. As I helped clear the dinner dishes, I caught glimpses of her reflecting in various mirrors, turning her head to make the fake emeralds sparkle. She looked so happy, so confident in her inheritance, and her place as the favored granddaughter. If only she knew that the real necklace was currently locked in a safety deposit box downtown, waiting for the day when I could reveal the truth about who really deserved the Ashworth family legacy. 2 weeks after Jessica's triumphant necklace reveal, I was restocking supply cabinets in the cardiac wing when my phone buzzed with an Instagram notification. Jessica had posted another photo of herself at some trendy West Hollywood restaurant, the fake necklace prominently displayed above her designer dress. The caption read, "Feeling grateful for family legacy and timeless beauty. #Ashworth tradition. Vintage jewelry. Blessed." A lot of love and effort went into bringing this story to life. If you're enjoying it, we'd be so grateful if you'd subscribe to our channel. Now, back to where we left off. The comments were predictably gushing. Gorgeous, so classy, that necklace is stunning. What made me pause was a comment from someone named @VintageVixenLA. Beautiful piece. The emerald clarity is exceptional for early 20th century work. I would love to feature it in my vintage jewelry blog if you're ever interested. I screenshot the comment before Jessica could see it. Vintage Vixen LA had over 50,000 followers and specialized in authenticating antique jewelry for her audience. She was exactly the kind of person who could spot inconsistencies in my replica, even through a photo. My satisfaction began mixing with something else. Not quite worried, but heightened awareness. The game was getting more interesting. "Linda Martinez, please report to room 314. The intercom crackled through my thoughts. I pocketed my phone and headed down the corridor, passing the nurse's station where my colleague Amy was scrolling through her own social media. "Your sister's living her best life, I see," Amy said, holding up her phone to show Jessica's latest post. "That necklace must be worth a fortune." "Family heirloom," I replied neutrally. "Been in the Ashworth family for generations." Lucky her, being the oldest. I'm the baby in my family, so I hand me down everything. Amy laughed, but there was a hint of genuine envy in her voice. Though I guess being 14 minutes older doesn't really make her more deserving than you. The comment stuck with me as I continued my rounds. Amy was right. 14 minutes was an arbitrary distinction. Jessica hadn't earned the necklace through devotion, sacrifice, or love. She'd simply existed slightly longer than me in our mother's womb. Meanwhile, I'd spent 2 years caring for grandmother Evelyn while Jessica sent occasional flowers and cheerful video calls from California. After my shift, I drove to the assisted living facility where grandmother Evelyn now resided. Sunset Manor was expensive, but necessary. Her dementia had progressed to the point where she needed round-the-clock supervision. I found her in the common room, staring out the window at the garden with that distant look I'd grown to recognize. "Hello, Grandma," I said softly, settling into the chair beside her. She turned toward me, her faded blue eyes searching my face. "Linda, is that you, dear?" "Yes, it's me." I was always surprised when she remembered my name correctly. Some days she called me Margaret, thinking I was my mother. Other days she didn't recognize me at all. "I was just thinking about my mother's necklace," she said. "The emerald one. Have you seen it recently?" My pulse quickened. "Jessica has it now, Grandma. Remember, you decided she should have it." Evelyn's brow furrowed in confusion. "Jessica? But that doesn't seem right. She's never here, never visits. You're the one who reads to me, who brings me those butter cookies I like." The lucid moments were becoming rarer, but they still caught me off guard. In these brief windows, Grandmother Evelyn seemed to remember everything clearly, including her true feelings about how her possessions should be distributed. "The will says it goes to the eldest granddaughter," I reminded her gently. "Wills can be changed," she said, gripping my hand with surprising strength. "If there's something you want to tell me, Linda, you should do it soon. My mind, it's not what it used to be." I studied her face, looking for signs of confusion or medication fog, but her eyes were sharp, focused. This was the grandmother who'd built a successful real estate empire from nothing, who'd negotiated million-dollar deals with senators and CEOs. What do you mean, Grandma? I mean that fairness isn't always about following rules. Sometimes it's about recognizing who truly deserves something. She patted my hand. You've been so good to me, sweetheart, so patient and kind. That should count for something. Before I could respond, her expression shifted. The clarity faded, replaced by the familiar distant look. Where did I put my reading glasses? I can't find them anywhere. The moment was gone, but her words echoed in my mind as I drove home. Even in her diminished state, Grandmother Evelyn seemed to understand the injustice of the situation. She recognized my devotion versus Jessica's neglect. Back at my apartment, I pulled out the safety deposit key I kept hidden in my jewelry box. The real necklace was secure in downtown Chicago, but I hadn't seen it since the day I'd made the switch. Part of me wanted to visit it, to hold the genuine emeralds and feel their weight in my hands. Instead, I opened my laptop and began researching Vintage Vixen LA. Her real name was Victoria Summers, and she ran an impressive operation. She'd exposed several fake vintage pieces in the past, including a 1920s Art Deco bracelet that turned out to be manufactured in 2018. Her followers trusted her expertise implicitly. I scrolled through her recent posts, studying her authentication methods. She often mentioned specific details that revealed forgeries, microscopic tool marks that indicate modern manufacturing, chemical composition differences in metal alloys, even the way light refracted through glass stones differently in authentic vintage pieces versus contemporary replicas. My confidence in Marcus Goldstein's work remained strong, but Victoria Summers was exactly the kind of expert who might notice details that casual observers would miss if she ever got a close look at Jessica's necklace. My phone rang, interrupting my research. Jessica's name appeared on the screen. Linda, I'm so glad you answered. I need your help with something. What's going on? I'm planning a surprise party for Mom's 60th birthday next month, and I want it to be perfect. You know how she loves family traditions, so I thought I'd wear my grandmother's necklace for the photos, make it really special. Another public appearance for the fake, another opportunity for discovery. That sounds nice. What kind of help do you need? Well, I was thinking about the guest list, and I want to invite some of Mom's college friends, including Professor Williams. You remember her, right? She taught art history and always went on about jewelry authentication and historical significance. Dr. Patricia Williams. I remembered her well from Mother's dinner parties. She'd written several papers on Victorian and Edwardian jewelry and had consulted for museums on their antique collections. She was precisely the kind of expert who could spot a fake emerald from across a room. That's a great idea, I managed to say. Mom would love to see her again. I know, right? And I thought maybe we could do a whole family heritage theme. I could tell the story of the necklace, maybe even have some of Grandmother's old photos displayed, make it really meaningful. A family heritage theme centered around a fake heirloom with a jewelry expert in attendance? The irony was almost too perfect. Jessica, are you sure you want to make such a big deal about the necklace? I mean, what if something happened to it? What if it got damaged at the party? Oh, don't worry about that. I'm getting it properly insured next week. I have an appointment with some hotshot appraiser that Victoria recommended. Victoria? Victoria who?
This vintage jewelry blogger I've been following. She's got amazing expertise, and she recommended this appraiser in Beverly Hills, Vincent something. He apparently specializes in antique pieces. Vincent Carrera, the same name Jessica had mentioned weeks ago, but now with a direct connection to a vintage jewelry expert who'd already shown interest in the necklace. That sounds thorough, I said carefully. I want to do everything right, you know? This necklace is going to be part of my family legacy someday. I want to make sure it's properly documented and protected. After Jessica hung up, I sat in my kitchen staring at my laptop screen. The situation was evolving faster than I'd anticipated. Not only would the fake necklace be scrutinized by a professional appraiser, but it would also be displayed at a party attended by an art history professor who specialized in jewelry authentication. The smart thing would be to find a way to derail Jessica's plans. Maybe suggest she save the necklace for a more private occasion. Maybe a hint that wearing such a valuable piece to a party was risky. But I found myself hoping she'd go through with it. Because the more experts who examined Jessica's fake necklace, the more likely it became that someone would discover the truth. And when that happened, when Jessica was publicly humiliated for parading around in a counterfeit family heirloom, I would be there to watch her perfect world crumble. The only question was whether I'd reveal my role in the deception or let everyone assume that Grandmother Evelyn had somehow been fooled by a clever forgery. Either way, Jessica was about to learn that being born 14 minutes earlier didn't automatically make her worthy of the Ashworth family legacy. I closed my laptop and smiled. The game was definitely getting more interesting. The call came at 6:30 in the morning, jolting me awake from dreams about emeralds and family secrets. Jessica's name flashed on my phone screen, and her voice was breathless with panic. "Linda, something terrible has happened. I need your help." I sat up immediately, my mind racing through possibilities. Has someone already discovered the fake? What's wrong? It's the necklace. I think someone might have stolen it. My heart hammered against my ribs. What do you mean, stolen? I came home from dinner with Marcus last night, and I swear I left it on my dresser, but this morning it was in my jewelry box instead. And Linda, it feels different somehow. Lighter, maybe? Or the color seems off in a certain light. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. Jessica was describing the exact differences between the original and my replica, differences that should have been imperceptible to someone who hadn't studied both pieces extensively. "Maybe you're just tired," I suggested, trying to keep my voice steady. "You've been traveling a lot for work lately." That's what I thought too, but then I looked at the photos I took last month compared to ones from this week. The emerald looks different, less vibrant somehow. This was impossible. Marcus had guaranteed that his replica would be photographically identical to the original. I'd paid extra for color-matching technology that could fool professional photography equipment. Have you had anyone else look at it? Maybe you should call that appraiser you mentioned. That's actually why I'm calling you. Vincent Carrera can see me today if I drive up to Beverly Hills, but I'm scared to travel with it if something's already wrong. Could you come with me? I know it's a lot to ask, but I really need moral support right now. The appraisal, 3 weeks earlier than Jessica had originally planned, and now she was suspicious about the necklace's authenticity. This was either the worst possible timing or exactly what I'd been waiting for. Of course I'll come. When do we need to leave? Can you be here by 10? The appointment's at 2, but I want to get there early. I agreed and immediately called in sick to the hospital. My supervisor, Janet, wasn't pleased about the short notice, but I'd built up enough goodwill through overtime shifts to cover occasional emergencies. The drive to Beverly Hills gave me 3 hours to figure out my strategy. Jessica spent most of the trip examining the necklace under different lighting conditions, occasionally asking me to look at specific details. "See how this emerald catches the light?" she said, holding it near the passenger window. "It used to have more fire, more depth. Now it seems almost flat." I made appropriately concerned noises while internally marveling at how perceptive she'd become. The human eye was more sophisticated than I'd given it credit for, especially when someone spent significant time with an object they value. "Maybe it's just dirty," I suggested. "Antique jewelry needs special cleaning sometimes." Maybe, but Jessica didn't sound convinced. Vincent Carrera's office occupied the top floor of a sleek building on Rodeo Drive. The waiting area featured museum-quality display cases filled with spectacular jewelry pieces, each with discrete plaques indicating their historical significance and estimated values. "Miss Ashworth," a man in his 50s approached us, his silver hair perfectly styled and his manner radiating professional confidence. "I'm Vincent Carrera. I understand you have a family piece you'd like me to examine." Jessica clutched the necklace case protectively. "Yes, it's been in my family for generations, but I'm starting to worry that something might be wrong with it." Vincent's eyebrows rose slightly. "What kind of concerns?" "It seems different lately. The color, the weight,
Even how it photographs. I'm probably being paranoid, but this piece means everything to me. Not paranoid at all. Family heirlooms deserve careful attention. Vincent gestured toward his examination room. Shall we take a look? The next 30 minutes were excruciating. Vincent examined every aspect of the necklace under various magnifications, tested the metal composition with specialized equipment, and photographed the gemstones under different lighting conditions. Jessica sat rigidly beside me, occasionally squeezing my hand when Vincent made particularly focused observations. Interesting, murmured Vincent several times, making notes I couldn't see. Finally, he set down his loupe and turned to face us. His expression was carefully neutral, the kind of professional poker face that could deliver either devastating news or wonderful surprises. Miss Ashworth, I have some findings to share with you. Would you prefer to discuss this privately, or is it all right for your sister to hear? Linda can hear anything you have to say. We don't keep secrets in our family. The irony of that statement nearly made me laugh out loud.
Very well. Vincent folded his hands on his desk. This is indeed a beautiful piece, and it's clearly crafted to resemble early 20th century work. However, I'm afraid it's not the original necklace your family believes it to be. Jessica went pale. What do you mean? This is an extremely sophisticated replica. The craftsmanship is exceptional. Honestly, some of the best work I've seen in terms of mimicking period details. But the emeralds are synthetic, created using modern hydrothermal processes that weren't available in the 1920s. The metal composition also includes trace elements that indicate contemporary manufacturing. The room fell silent, except for Jessica's sharp intake of breath. She stared at Vincent as if he'd spoken a foreign language. "That's impossible," she whispered. "This necklace has been in our family for 4 generations. My grandmother wore it, her mother before her." "I understand this is shocking," Vincent said gently, "but the evidence is conclusive. Someone has created a very expensive, very detailed reproduction of your family's original piece." Jessica turned to me, her eyes wide with disbelief and something approaching panic. "That's impossible," she whispered. "This necklace has been in our family for 4 generations. My grandmother wore it, her mother before her." "I understand this is shocking," Vincent said gently, "but the evidence is conclusive. Someone has created a very expensive, very detailed reproduction of your family's original piece." Jessica turned to me, her eyes wide with disbelief and something approaching panic. "Linda, this doesn't make sense. How could this happen?" I forced myself to look equally confused and concerned. Maybe Grandmother Evelyn had a copy made for insurance purposes? Some people do that with valuable pieces. But when would she have done that? And why didn't she tell anyone? Jessica's voice was rising. "Vincent, you're absolutely certain?" "I stake my professional reputation on it. However," he continued, "the quality of this replica suggests it was created by someone with intimate knowledge of the original piece. Every detail, down to a small chip in the central emerald, has been perfectly reproduced. This level of accuracy requires extensive study of the authentic necklace." My stomach dropped. The chip in the emerald? I'd specifically instructed Marcus to include that family flaw in his replica. It was supposed to make the fake more convincing, but now it was evidence of deliberate deception. "Could someone have stolen the original and replaced it with this?" Jessica asked. "That's certainly possible. Do you know who had access to the necklace before you inherited it?" Jessica looked at me again, and for a moment I thought I saw suspicion flicker in her eyes, but then she shook her head. "Just family members. My grandmother, my parents, Linda and I, maybe a few close family friends over the years." "I'd recommend filing a police report," Vincent said. "If the original was stolen and replaced, this could be part of a larger scheme targeting valuable family heirlooms. I've seen cases where thieves replace authentic pieces with replicas to delay discovery of the theft." As we left Vincent's office, Jessica was unusually quiet. She clutched the fake necklace case like it might provide answers if she held it tightly enough. "I can't believe this is happening," she finally said as we reached her car. "Who would do something like this to our family?" "Maybe it's not as bad as it seems," I offered. "Maybe there's an explanation we haven't thought of." "Like what?
Someone accidentally switched a priceless family heirloom with a fake? Jessica's voice cracked with frustration. Linda, this necklace was supposed to be my inheritance. It was supposed to be real. For the first time since I'd conceived this plan, I felt a twinge of something that might have been guilt. Jessica's distress was genuine, her sense of loss palpable. She wasn't just upset about the monetary value, she was mourning the connection to our family history that she thought she'd possessed. But then I remembered all the times she'd dismissed my sacrifices, all the ways she'd taken her privileged position for granted. The guilt faded, replaced by familiar satisfaction. "We need to call Mom and Dad," she said, "and we need to figure out when this switch could have happened. Vincent said whoever did this had detailed knowledge of the original piece." She started the car, but before pulling out of the parking space, she turned to me with an expression I'd never seen before. It was calculating, suspicious, and utterly unlike the trusting sister I'd grown up with. "Linda, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me." My mouth went dry. "Of course. You've been visiting Grandmother Evelyn more than anyone else. You've had the most access to her things, including her jewelry. Did you ever notice anything strange about the necklace? Any changes in how it looked or felt?" The moment stretched between us. Jessica was closer to the truth than she realized, and I could see her mind working through possibilities, connections, timelines. I met her gaze steadily, calling on every acting skill I'd ever possessed. "Jess, I would never do anything to hurt you or our family. You know that, right?" She studied my face for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "You're right. I'm sorry. This whole situation has me paranoid and suspicious of everyone." As we drove back towards Chicago, Jessica spent the time making phone calls to our parents, to Grandmother Evelyn's lawyer, even to the police department to inquire about filing a theft report. With each conversation, the investigation into the missing necklace grew more official, more serious. I listened to her explanations and watched her growing determination to find the truth. Jessica had always been persistent when she wanted something, and now she wanted answers about her stolen inheritance. What she didn't realize was that the person who could provide those answers was sitting right beside her, offering comfort and support while secretly celebrating the success of the most elaborate deception of my life. The real question now was how long I could maintain my innocent act before Jessica's investigation led her to the truth about who had really taken the Ashworth family necklace. Detective Sarah Chen arrived at our family home 3 days after Vincent Carrera's devastating appraisal. She was younger than I'd expected, maybe early 30s, with sharp eyes that seemed to catalog every detail of our antique-filled living room. Jessica had insisted on filing the police report, despite Mother's protests about airing family business publicly. "Insurance fraud involving replica jewelry is more common than people think," Detective Chen explained, settling into Father's leather armchair with a notepad. "Thieves are getting increasingly sophisticated about creating convincing fakes. Can you walk me through who had access to the necklace over the past 2 years?" Jessica sat on the edge of the sofa, still clutching the fake necklace case like a security blanket. "Well, it was kept in my grandmother's jewelry box at her house until she moved to Sunset Manor. After that, my parents stored it in their safe here." "When did you first take possession of it yourself?" Detective Chen asked. "About 3 weeks ago, when grandmother officially gifted it to me. She said she wanted to see me wear it while she could still appreciate it." I maintained my concerned expression, while internally noting how Jessica's timeline aligned perfectly with my own plans. 3 weeks ago was exactly when I'd returned the replica to Grandmother Evelyn's jewelry box, timing the switch for maximum authenticity. "And Miss Martinez," Detective Chen turned to me, "you mentioned you visit your grandmother regularly. How often would you say you were at her residence?"
2 or 3 times a week for the past 2 years, I replied honestly. Someone needed to help coordinate her care, and Jessica lives in California. "Did you ever have occasion to see or handle the necklace during those visits?" This was the moment I'd been preparing for. Occasionally, Grandmother would ask me to help her with jewelry for special occasions. She liked to wear pieces that reminded her of happier times, but I was always very careful with everything. Detective Chen made notes. "Were there any other family members or close friends who might have had access?" Mother shifted uncomfortably in her chair. Well, there's my nephew, Bradley. He's been persistent about wanting access to Mother's valuables. He has strong opinions about how family heirlooms should be distributed. What kind of strong opinions? Detective Chen asked. He believes male heirs should inherit family treasures, not granddaughters, Father explained with obvious distaste. He's contested several aspects of Mother's estate planning. Has he ever been alone with the jewelry collection? He helped us move some of Mother's things when she transitioned to assisted living, Jessica said slowly. We needed extra hands to pack everything safely. Detective Chen's pen moved rapidly across her notepad. I'll need his contact information. Anyone else? There's also Marcus Goldstein, I said, trying to sound helpful while my pulse quickened. He's a jeweler who does restoration work for several families in our neighborhood. Grandmother Evelyn had him clean some pieces last year. Interesting, Detective Chen looked up. Do you know if he ever worked specifically on the emerald necklace? I'm not sure, I lied smoothly, but he would have the expertise to create a replica if he'd had access to the original. Jessica stared at me with sudden interest. Linda, that's brilliant. Why didn't I think of that? A jeweler would have all the tools and knowledge needed to make a convincing fake. We should definitely look into it, I agreed, hoping my voice didn't betray the irony of suggesting my own co-conspirator as a suspect. Detective Chen collected Marcus's business information, along with details about Bradley's recent visits and any other potential suspects. After she left, promising to interview everyone on her list, Jessica turned to me with renewed energy. I want to go through Grandmother's papers, she announced. Maybe she kept receipts or records that could tell us when this switch happened. The prospect of Jessica discovering evidence of my deception should have terrified me. Instead, I felt that familiar thrill of playing a dangerous game. That's a great idea. I'll help you look. We drove to Sunset Manor that evening, armed with boxes and determination. Grandmother Evelyn was having one of her difficult days, barely recognizing us and agitated by our presence in her room. We moved our search to the facility's family conference room, where her remaining personal papers were stored. Look at this, Jessica said after an hour of sorting through documents. She held up a receipt dated 6 months earlier. Grandmother paid Marcus Goldstein $300 for jewelry consultation and cleaning services. This proves he had access to her collection. I examined the receipt with apparent interest, remembering exactly when I'd suggested Grandmother hire Marcus to clean her jewelry. It had been the perfect way to introduce him to her collection without raising suspicions about my later request for his special services. There's something else, Jessica continued, pulling out a folder marked Insurance Documentation. Look at these photos. She spread out a series of professional photographs showing various pieces of Grandmother's jewelry collection. The emerald necklace featured prominently in several shots, captured from multiple angles under museum-quality lighting. These were taken 8 months ago for insurance purposes, Jessica said, studying the images with a magnifying glass she'd borrowed from the nursing staff. The necklace in these photos definitely looks different from what I have now. The emerald color is richer, more saturated. She was right, of course. These photographs showed the authentic necklace, taken before I'd commissioned Marcus to create his replica. The differences were subtle but unmistakable when viewed side by side. So the switch happened sometime after these photos were taken, I observed, helping to establish a timeline that would direct suspicion away from the recent transfer to Jessica. Jessica's voice carried a mixture of relief and anger. Someone took advantage of an elderly woman with dementia. We continued searching through papers, finding more evidence of Marcus's legitimate business relationship with our family. He'd cleaned and repaired several pieces over the past year, always with proper documentation and reasonable fees. To any investigator, he would appear to be a trusted professional with authorized access to valuable jewelry. Linda, look at this. Jessica held up a handwritten note in Grandmother Evelyn's distinctive script. It's a list of people she wanted to have specific jewelry pieces. And look, she wrote your name next to the emerald necklace. My heart stopped. The note was dated just 4 months ago, during one of Grandmother's lucid periods. In careful handwriting, she'd listed various pieces of jewelry along with family members' names. Next to Emerald and Diamond Necklace, 1923, she'd written, Linda, most devoted granddaughter.
This doesn't make sense, Jessica said, staring at the note. Her will clearly states that I inherit the necklace as the eldest granddaughter. Why would she write your name here? I forced myself to breathe normally. Maybe she was just confused. You know how her memory comes and goes. But her handwriting is so clear here. And look at the date. This was written after one of her good days. I remember because we had lunch together that weekend and she was completely lucid. Jessica folded the note carefully and slipped it into her purse. I'm going to show this to Detective Chen. It might be relevant to understanding grandmother's state of mind when the theft occurred. After we packed up the remaining papers, I noticed Jessica watching me more carefully than usual. She seemed to be studying my reactions, looking for something I couldn't quite identify. Linda, can I ask you something personal? Of course. How do you feel about the necklace going to me instead of you? I mean, honestly, you've done so much more for grandmother than I have. The question caught me off guard. Jessica had never acknowledged the disparity in our devotion to grandmother Evelyn, never recognized the sacrifices I'd made while she pursued her glamorous California lifestyle. I think family traditions matter, I said carefully. The necklace has always gone to the eldest daughter or granddaughter. That's how it should be. But what if grandmother wanted something different? What if she really meant for you to have it? I met her gaze, wondering if this was a test or genuine curiosity. Jessica, you're the rightful heir according to the will. That's what matters legally. Maybe legally, but not necessarily morally. Jessica stared out the conference room window at the darkening sky. I keep thinking about how much time you've spent with her, how patient you've been with her illness. Meanwhile, I send flowers and make video calls because visiting in person is too emotionally difficult for me. This was the closest Jessica had ever come to acknowledging the inequality between us. For a moment, I almost felt guilty about my elaborate deception. Almost. You have your own life to live, I said. Grandmother understands that. Does she? Or does she think I'm selfish and self-centered like everyone else probably does? Before I could answer, Jessica's phone rang. Detective Chen's name appeared on the screen. Miss Ashworth, I've spoken with Marcus Goldstein, and I have some interesting information to share. Could you come down to the station tomorrow morning? Jessica agreed to the meeting, her eyes bright with anticipation. After hanging up, she turned to me with the first genuine smile I'd seen from her since Vincent's appraisal. Maybe we're finally getting somewhere. Maybe we'll find out who did this to our family. As we drove home through the Chicago evening traffic, I wondered what Detective Chen had learned from Marcus. Had he maintained our agreed-upon story about never working on the emerald necklace specifically? Or had the pressure of police questioning led him to reveal details about our arrangement? Either way, tomorrow's meeting would determine whether my carefully constructed deception would continue to hold up under professional scrutiny, or whether Jessica was about to discover that the person who'd stolen her inheritance was sitting right beside her, offering comfort and support while secretly celebrating the most elaborate betrayal of her life. The game was entering its most dangerous phase, and I couldn't wait to see how it would unfold. The police station waiting area smelled like stale coffee and industrial disinfectant. Jessica sat beside me, nervously checking her phone while we waited for Detective Chen to call us in. I maintained an outward calm that belied the chaos in my mind. Marcus had been questioned yesterday, and whatever he'd told the detective was significant enough to warrant this morning meeting. Ms. Ashworth, Ms. Martinez, Detective Chen appeared in the doorway, her expression unreadable. Please come in. Her office was smaller than I'd expected, with case files stacked precariously on every available surface. She gestured for us to sit across from her desk, then pulled out a thick folder marked with our case number. I've had an interesting conversation with Marcus Goldstein, she began, opening the folder to reveal several photographs and documents. He was very cooperative once I explained the serious nature of jewelry theft charges. Jessica leaned forward eagerly. Did he admit to stealing the necklace? Not exactly. In fact, Mr. Goldstein provided information that puts this case in an entirely different light. Detective Chen's eyes fixed on me with laser focus. He told me about a very specific commission he completed 3 months ago. A commission for an exact replica of an emerald and diamond necklace from the 1920s. My blood turned to ice, but I forced myself to look confused rather than panicked. A commission? From whom? That's what makes this interesting, Ms. Martinez. According to Mr. Goldstein's records, the commission came from someone claiming to represent the Ashworth family, someone who provided extremely detailed photographs and measurements of the original piece. Jessica's head snapped toward me, her eyes wide with growing comprehension. Linda, you didn't. The client paid in cash, Detective Chen continued, $8,000 for what Mr. Goldstein described as the most sophisticated replica work he'd ever attempted. The client specifically requested that every detail be perfect, including a small chip in the central emerald that appeared in the reference photos. The room fell silent, except for the hum of fluorescent lights overhead. Jessica stared at me with an expression of dawning horror, while Detective Chen waited for my response with professional patience. I don't understand what this has to do with me, I said, my voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through my veins. Mr. Goldstein provided us with security footage from his shop, Detective Chen said, sliding a still image across the desk. The timestamp shows this footage was taken exactly 3 months ago. The photograph showed me entering Marcus's jewelry shop, my face unmistakable under the store's bright lighting. There was no denying it, no explaining it away. Jessica's face went pale, then flushed with anger. Linda, how could you? How could you do this to our family, to me? For a moment, I considered maintaining the charade, protesting my innocence and claiming the image must be doctored. But looking at Jessica's betrayed expression and Detective Chen's knowing gaze, I realized the game was finally over. And, surprisingly, I felt relieved. Because it was never really yours to begin with, I said quietly, meeting Jessica's horrified stare. That necklace should have been mine. Grandmother Evelyn wanted me to have it, just like her note said, but nobody cared about what she actually wanted, did they? Are you admitting to theft, Ms. Martinez? Detective Chen asked, her pen poised over her notepad. I'm admitting to taking what rightfully belonged to me. I turned back to Jessica, years of resentment finally spilling over. Do you know how many nights I've spent at grandmother's bedside while she struggled with her medication? How many doctor's appointments I've driven her to while you were posting Instagram photos from Malibu beach houses? Jessica's voice shook with emotion. So you decided to steal from her? From your own grandmother? I didn't steal anything. I switched a fake for the real necklace that grandmother wanted me to have anyway. The only difference is that I made it happen instead of waiting for family politics and legal technicalities to deny me what I deserved. Where is the original necklace now? Detective Chen interrupted. I straightened my shoulders, feeling oddly liberated by the truth. In a safety deposit box downtown, completely safe and properly insured, unlike the fake you've been parading around in public, Jessica. Jessica jumped to her feet, her hands clenched into fists. You let me embarrass myself. You sat there and watched me get that appraisal, knowing exactly what Vincent would find. You watched me file a police report and launch an investigation into my own sister? I watched you finally understand how it feels to lose something you care about, how it feels to have someone else make decisions about what you deserve. This is insane. She turned to Detective Chen. She's completely lost her mind. Arrest her. Ms. Martinez, you understand that, regardless of your feelings about the inheritance, taking property that doesn't legally belong to you constitutes theft. The will clearly designates Miss Ashworth as the rightful heir.
The will was written 5 years ago, before grandmother's illness progressed. She changed her mind about who should inherit the necklace, but nobody bothered to update the legal documents. Her handwritten note proves her true intentions. Handwritten notes don't override legal wills, Detective Chen pointed out. Maybe not legally, but morally they do. Grandmother Evelyn wanted to reward the granddaughter who actually cared about her, not the one who showed up for holidays and photo opportunities. Jessica's eyes filled with tears, but her voice remained strong. You think you're the only one who loves her? You think because I live in California and have a different way of showing affection that I cared less? I think actions matter more than intentions.
I think being present matters more than sending expensive flower arrangements, and I think Grandmother Evelyn recognized that difference. Even if that's true, Jessica said, wiping her eyes, it didn't give you the right to deceive everyone, to let me believe I had something precious when it was just an expensive fake. For the first time since my confession began, I felt a pang of genuine regret. Not for taking the necklace, I still believed I deserved it, but for the elaborate deception that had caused Jessica such distress. You're right about that part, I admitted. I could have found a different way to handle the situation. I could have talked to you, or challenged the will legally, or worked with the family to honor grandmother's wishes. But instead, you chose to commit a crime and let your sister suffer, Detective Chen observed. I chose to ensure that family loyalty and sacrifice were rewarded instead of taken for granted. I looked directly at Jessica, and yes, I enjoyed watching you squirm a little. You've spent your entire life getting everything handed to you while I did the actual work. It felt good to turn the tables for once. Jessica sank back into her chair, her anger seeming to drain away and leave only sadness. Linda, I never realized you felt this way about our relationship, about the family dynamics. How could you realize it? You were too busy being the golden child to notice how unbalanced everything was. That's not fair. I never asked to be born first. I never asked for special treatment. But you accepted it without question. You never once suggested that maybe the necklace should go to the granddaughter who'd actually earned it through devotion and sacrifice. Detective Chen cleared her throat. Ladies, while this family discussion is illuminating, I need to address the legal implications of this situation. Ms. Martinez, you've confessed to commissioning a replica of stolen property and substituting it for the original. That constitutes theft by deception, regardless of your personal feelings about the inheritance. I nodded, feeling strangely calm about the consequences. I understand. What happens now? I'll need you to retrieve the original necklace from the safety deposit box. Ms. Ashworth will need to decide whether she wants to press charges, and the district attorney will determine how to proceed with prosecution. Jessica and I looked at each other across the small office. Despite everything that had happened, despite the betrayal and deception, I could see her struggling with the decision. We might have had our differences, but we were still sisters. Can I have some time to think about it? Jessica asked. Of course, but Ms. Martinez, you'll need to surrender the original necklace today, and you should probably consult with an attorney about your legal options. As we left the police station, Jessica walked silently beside me toward the parking garage. The morning sun seemed too bright after the fluorescent lighting inside, and I had to shield my eyes as we navigated through rows of cars. Linda, Jessica said finally, stopping beside her vehicle, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest. I think I've been pretty honest for the past hour. Do you really believe grandmother wanted you to have the necklace, or did you just convince yourself of that to justify what you did? I considered the question carefully, thinking about grandmother Evelyn's lucid moments and her written note expressing her true wishes. Both, I said finally. I genuinely believe she wanted me to have it, but I also know I was looking for reasons to justify taking what I wanted. The truth is probably somewhere in the middle. Jessica nodded slowly, then got into her car without another word. As she drove away, I stood alone in the parking garage, wondering whether I'd finally gotten justice for years of being overlooked, or whether I'd just destroyed my relationship with the only sister I'd ever have. Either way, the real emerald necklace was about to be returned to its legal owner, and the game I'd been playing for 3 months was finally over. The only question now was whether the price of winning had been worth it. 3 days passed in excruciating silence. I'd surrendered the real necklace to Detective Chen as required, watching as Jessica held her true inheritance for the first time in months. The genuine emeralds had caught the police station's harsh fluorescent light differently than Marcus's synthetic stones, and even I had to admit there was something magical about the authentic piece that no replica could capture. Now I sat in my apartment, officially on unpaid leave from the hospital, pending the outcome of the investigation. My supervisor had been understanding but firm. Healthcare workers couldn't afford even the appearance of dishonesty. My career hangs in the balance along with everything else I'd gambled on this elaborate scheme. The knock on my door came at 7:30 on Thursday evening. Through the peephole, I could see Jessica standing in the hallway, clutching a manila envelope and looking exhausted. She'd lost weight in the past few days, her usual polished appearance replaced by rumpled clothes and tired eyes. "We need to talk," she said when I opened the door. I stepped aside to let her in, noting how she looked around my modest apartment with new attention. Previously, Jessica had visited maybe twice in the 3 years I'd lived here, always seeming eager to go somewhere more exciting. Now she studied my bookshelves, my carefully managed budget evident in the secondhand furniture and thrift store decorations. "Coffee?" I offered, more to fill the awkward silence than from any expectation of hospitality. "Sure." She settled on my couch, placing the envelope carefully beside her. "Linda, I've been thinking a lot since Tuesday. About us, about the family, about everything that's happened." I brought 2 mugs from the kitchen and sat across from her in my reading chair. "And I've decided not to press charges." The relief that flooded through me was so intense I nearly dropped my coffee. "Jessica, thank you. You didn't have to." "Let me finish." Her voice was firm, cutting off my gratitude. "I'm not pressing charges because I think you were right about some things. Not about stealing the necklace, that was wrong, no matter how you justify it, but about the family dynamics, about how unfairly things have been divided between us." She opened the envelope and pulled out several documents. "I've been going through grandmother's papers more thoroughly, and I found some things that made me realize how blind I've been."
The first document she showed me was a bank statement from 18 months ago. Highlighted in yellow were monthly transfers of $500 to an account labeled E. Ashworth Care Fund. "You've been supplementing grandmother's care costs," Jessica said quietly. "The assisted living facility, the private nursing when she had pneumonia, the upgraded room with the garden view, you've been paying for all of it." I stared at the bank statement, surprised that Jessica had uncovered my financial contributions. I'd been careful to make the payments discreetly, not wanting to embarrass our parents or make Jessica feel guilty about her absence. "The facility accepts payment plans," I said simply. "Grandmother deserved the best care possible." $500 a month for 18 months? That's $9,000, Linda, plus the $8,000 you spent on the replica necklace. You've invested $17,000 of your nursing salary in this family, while I've been, buying expensive purses and taking luxury vacations?" She pulled out another document, a folder labeled Correspondence in Grandmother Evelyn's handwriting. Inside were dozens of cards and letters I'd sent over the past 2 years, along with printed emails and photos from various visits. "She kept everything," Jessica said, her voice breaking slightly. "Every birthday card, every photo of you helping her with physical therapy, every note you sent after doctor's appointments. There's almost nothing from me in here except holiday cards and a few printed emails." I looked through the collection, remembering writing many of those notes and cards. They'd seemed like small gestures at the time, but seeing them gathered together painted a picture of sustained devotion that even I hadn't fully appreciated. "Jessica, you couldn't have known." Couldn't I? Or did I just choose not to see it? She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "I've been telling myself that geography was the only difference between us, that I would have been just as involved if I lived closer. But the truth is, even when I visited Chicago, I spent more time shopping and seeing friends than I did with grandmother." The next item she pulled from the envelope was a recent will amendment, dated just 2 months ago. I also found this in grandmother's papers at Sunset Manor. Apparently, she'd been working with her lawyer to update her estate distribution. I read the document with growing amazement. In clear legal language, it specified that the emerald necklace should pass to Linda Margaret Martinez in recognition of her exceptional devotion and sacrifice during my period of declining health. "She really did want you to have it," Jessica said softly. "This was signed and witnessed, but apparently never filed with the probate court because of her deteriorating condition. Her lawyer thought she might change her mind again during a confusing episode." I stared at the amendment, feeling a complex mixture of vindication and regret. If this had been properly filed, then none of this would have happened. You would have inherited the necklace legally, and I would have had to accept that grandmother's final wishes recognized your greater devotion. Jessica took the document back and carefully returned it to the envelope. "Instead, we're both dealing with the aftermath of your felony theft conviction." "I haven't been convicted of anything yet." "But you will be, unless the charges are dropped entirely." Which brings me to why I'm really here.
Jessica stood up and walked to my window, looking out at the Chicago skyline. I want to make you a deal. What kind of deal? I'm not pressing charges, and I'm going to ask Detective Chen and the prosecutor to drop the case entirely. In exchange, I want you to help me understand what really happened in our family. Not just with the necklace, but with all of it. Why did we grow up so differently? Why didn't I see how unbalanced things were? I joined her at the window, considering her proposal. You want family therapy? I want honesty. Real conversations about the resentment you've been carrying, about the ways I've been oblivious, about how we can move forward without destroying each other. She turned to face me. And I want to make some changes to how family responsibilities are shared. What kind of changes? I'm moving back to Chicago. I've already started looking for an apartment near Sunset Manor so I can be more involved in grandmother's care. My influencer career can be managed from anywhere, and frankly, the lifestyle in Los Angeles wasn't making me happy anyway. This was the last thing I'd expected. Jessica, you don't have to uproot your entire life because of guilt. It's not guilt, Linda. It's recognition. I've been coasting on privilege and family name while you've been doing the actual work of maintaining relationships and caring for people. That needs to change. She pulled out one final document from the envelope. I've also had my lawyer draw up a proposal for sharing grandmother's estate more equitably. Instead of following the original will, I want to honor her final wishes as expressed in that amendment. The document was a formal agreement transferring ownership of the emerald necklace to me, along with several other pieces from her grandmother's jewelry collection. In exchange, Jessica would inherit the larger monetary assets and real estate holdings. You'd give up the necklace voluntarily? I'd give up the necklace to the person grandmother actually wanted to have it. There's a difference. Jessica sat back down, looking directly at me. But Linda, I need you to promise me something in return. What? Promise me that you'll never lie to me again. No more elaborate deceptions, no more justified thefts, no more games. If you have a problem with how things are being handled in this family, you bring it to me directly. I thought about the past 3 months, about the thrill of outsmarting everyone, and the satisfaction of watching Jessica unknowingly parade around in a fake. But I also thought about the sleepless nights, the constant anxiety about discovery, and the way my deception had poisoned every interaction with my family. I promise, I said. No more games. Good. Because we're going to need to trust each other if we're going to rebuild this relationship. Jessica gathered her documents and stood to leave. There's one more thing. I want to throw a party. A party. For grandmother Evelyn. A celebration of her life while she can still participate, even if she's not always lucid. I want both of us to wear pieces from her jewelry collection. You'll wear the emerald necklace, obviously. The idea of publicly wearing the necklace I'd stolen and schemed to obtain felt surreal. Are you sure about that? I'm sure that grandmother deserves to see her jewelry being worn and appreciated by people who love her, and I'm sure that you've earned the right to wear that necklace, even if your methods were questionable.
After Jessica left, I sat alone in my apartment holding the ownership transfer documents. In the span of one conversation, I'd gone from potential felon to legitimate heir, from estranged sister to trusted family member. The necklace was finally, legally mine. But the victory felt different than I'd imagined during all those months of planning and deception. Instead of triumph over Jessica, it felt like the beginning of a more honest relationship between us. I thought about grandmother Evelyn, probably sitting in her room at Sunset Manor, struggling to remember the faces of the granddaughters who loved her. She'd wanted her jewelry to go to the person who truly cared for her, and through a combination of theft, confession, and forgiveness, that's exactly what had happened. The game was over, but maybe, finally, we could all win. 6 weeks later, I stood in front of my bedroom mirror, fastening the emerald necklace around my neck for the first time as its rightful owner. The genuine stones felt different against my skin than Marcus's replica, heavier, warmer somehow, as if they carried the weight of 4 generations of Ashworth women who had worn them before me. Today was Grandmother Evelyn's celebration party, and Jessica had transformed the community room at Sunset Manor into something magical.
White lilies, grandmother's favorite flowers, filled every corner, and photographs spanning 8 decades of her life created a timeline along the walls. The real surprise was seeing how many people had come to honor her. Neighbors from her old apartment building, former colleagues from her real estate career, nurses and staff from the facility, and family members I hadn't seen in years. "You look beautiful," Jessica said, appearing beside me in the mirror's reflection. She wore grandmother's pearl and sapphire choker, which suited her delicate features perfectly. "That necklace belongs to you. I can see it now." The past month has been a whirlwind of changes. True to her word, Jessica had found an apartment just 10 minutes from Sunset Manor and had already established a routine of daily visits with grandmother. She'd also taken over managing the complex medical billing and insurance issues that I'd been handling alone for 2 years. More surprisingly, she'd started a new social media project documenting her grandmother's stories and family history. The Instagram account, @EvelynRemembered, had already gained 15,000 followers, who were captivated by the glimpses into Depression-era entrepreneurship and 1950s society life. Jessica had found a way to use her influencer skills for something meaningful. "How's she doing today?" I asked, nodding toward the community room where grandmother sat in her wheelchair near the windows. "Mixed. She recognized me this morning and asked about the party, but she's been calling me Margaret for the past hour." Jessica's voice carried the sadness we'd both learned to live with. "Dr. Reeves thinks we might have 3 or 4 more months of occasional lucid moments." 3 or 4 months. The timeline gave urgency to everything we were trying to accomplish in rebuilding our family relationships. Grandmother might not remember this party tomorrow, but she was alert and smiling today, surrounded by people who loved her. "Ladies and gentlemen," Father's voice called the room to attention, "if I could have everyone gather around, we'd like to begin the formal celebration." I took grandmother's hand as the crowd assembled around her wheelchair. Her fingers were thin and cold, but her grip was surprisingly strong when she recognized me. "Linda, dear," she said, "you're wearing the necklace. It looks just like it did on my mother." "Thank you, Grandma. You look beautiful, too." "It's funny," she continued, her voice carrying to the people gathered nearby. "I always thought that necklace would go to the granddaughter who understood its real value. Not its price, but what it represents." Jessica moved to grandmother's other side, taking her free hand. "What does it represent, Grandma?" "Endurance. My great-grandmother bought it during the worst year of her life. Her husband had died, she was raising 3 children alone, and everyone told her to sell her jewelry to pay bills." Grandmother's eyes grew distant but focused. "Instead, she worked 3 jobs to keep that necklace. She said it reminded her that beautiful things could survive difficult times." The room had fallen completely silent. Even the staff members had stopped their preparations to listen. "She was right," grandmother continued. "The necklace survived the stock market crash, 2 world wars, the Depression, and 60 years of family arguments about who deserved what. Now it's with Linda, who understands that taking care of people is more important than taking care of things." I felt tears threatening and squeezed grandmother's hand. Around us, family members nodded in understanding. Uncle Charles, who'd always been skeptical about my worthiness for family heirlooms, was looking at me with something that might have been respect. "We have some presentations to make," Jessica announced, producing a leather-bound photo album. "Linda and I have been working together to document grandmother's stories and preserve them for future generations." The album was Jessica's idea, but we'd spent hours together at Sunset Manor recording grandmother's memories during her clearer moments. The result was a treasure trove of family history that would have been lost forever without this project. As Jessica read excerpts about grandmother's business ventures and charitable work, I noticed Bradley approaching from across the room. Cousin Bradley, who'd contested every aspect of grandmother's estate planning, who believed male heirs deserved priority over mere granddaughters. "Linda," he said quietly, "could I speak with you privately for a moment?" We stepped into the hallway outside the community room. Bradley looked uncomfortable, shifting his weight and avoiding eye contact. "I owe you an apology," he said finally. "I've been fighting the estate distribution because I thought you and Jessica were just grabbing valuable items without understanding their significance. I was wrong about you." "Bradley, you don't need to." "Yes, I do. I've been watching how you've handled grandmother's care, how you've sacrificed your time and money for her well-being. That's what family responsibility actually looks like. He paused, seeming to struggle with his next words. I'm withdrawing my legal challenges to the estate. You've proven you deserve whatever grandmother wants you to have. The apology was unexpected and genuinely moving. Bradley had always been difficult, but I realized his resistance came from a genuine desire to preserve family traditions, even if his methods were misguided. Thank you. That means a lot coming from you. There's something else. I want to establish a trust fund for grandmother's ongoing care costs. I know you've been covering expenses out of your own pocket, and that's not fair. Family wealth should support family needs. When we returned to the community room, Detective Chen was just arriving with a small gift bag. She'd become an unexpected ally over the past month, helping to navigate the legal complexities of dropping the theft charges and ensuring the case was closed without any permanent record. "How's our favorite jewelry expert doing?" she asked, smiling at grandmother. "I'm having a wonderful day," grandmother replied. "All my favorite people are here, and my granddaughters are wearing my mother's jewelry. That's how it should be."
As the afternoon continued, I found myself in conversations with family members I'd barely spoken to in years. Great Aunt Dorothy shared stories about helping grandmother maintain the necklace over the decades. Uncle Charles apologized for questioning my knowledge of family history. Even some of the nursing staff shared memories of grandmother's kindness during her more difficult days. "You know what I realized today?" Jessica said as we helped clean up later that evening. "This whole situation with the necklace wasn't really about jewelry at all." "What do you mean?" "It was about recognition. You needed to be seen and acknowledged for everything you've done for this family. And I needed to understand that privilege comes with responsibility." She folded the last tablecloth and added it to the pile heading back to storage. "We both got what we needed, just not the way either of us expected." As the sun set through the community room windows, grandmother dozed in her wheelchair while Jessica and I finished the cleanup. The emerald necklace caught the golden light, and I thought about all the women who had worn it before me during their own moments of triumph and trial. My phone buzzed with a text from Marcus Goldstein. "Saw the social media posts about the party. Glad everything worked out well. The real necklace looks beautiful on you." I deleted the message and smiled. Marcus had been surprisingly understanding about the legal complications his involvement had created. He'd even refused to accept additional payment for the stress of police questioning, saying that creating the replica had been one of the most challenging and rewarding projects of his career. "Ready to go?" Jessica asked, wheeling grandmother back toward her room. "Actually, I think I'll stay a little longer, help her get settled for the night." Jessica nodded, understanding. "I'll be back tomorrow morning. We're supposed to record more stories for the album." As I helped grandmother prepare for bed, she took my hand one more time. "Linda, I want you to know something important. That necklace has been worn by 4 generations of strong women, but you're the first one who truly earned it through sacrifice and love." "Thank you, Grandma. That means everything to me." "Promise me you'll wear it on special occasions. Let it remind you that beautiful things are worth fighting for, but the most beautiful thing of all is taking care of the people you love." I promised, and she smiled before drifting off to sleep. Walking to my car in the Sunset Manor parking lot, I reflected on the past 3 months. I'd started this journey determined to claim what I believed was rightfully mine through deception and manipulation. Instead, I'd ended up with something far more valuable: genuine reconciliation with my sister, recognition from my family, and the knowledge that I'd truly earned my inheritance through years of devotion. The emerald necklace was finally mine, but more importantly, I'd learned that the real family treasures weren't objects that could be stolen or given away. They were the relationships and memories we created through love, sacrifice, and forgiveness. As I drove home through the Chicago evening, I touched the necklace at my throat and smiled. Grandmother Evelyn was right. Beautiful things could survive difficult times. And sometimes, if you were very lucky, they became even more beautiful in the process. Looking for more? We've got 2 amazing stories ready for you right on screen. If this one touched you, these are absolutely worth your time. Click to watch them now. And hey, subscribe and hit that bell to never miss our latest uploads.